Hey, how's it going? In this video, I'm going to go over the top mistakes that cremation societies and really funeral homes are making in 2023. And by avoiding these mistakes, we've seen owners rapidly grow case volume and dominate market share, all while significantly increasing their average revenue per case. So my name's Albert, how's it going? And I'm a co-founder of Partnering Pro. Our company's been partnering with cremation societies, cremation brands, funeral homes for the past 7 years to make the cremation process easier for families. In 2022, we processed over 100,000 cases online. And with the trend of consumers moving online, and with also the increasing cremation rates, we expect this number to grow by 50% this year. So who's this video for really? It's really for owners of cremation societies, funeral homes, cremation brands who are looking to expand their online offerings. So it's possible that you already have, a working online cremation flow right now. Maybe you're interested in reducing your workload or increasing profit. Or maybe you have some tools that came with your website, but families don't really use them, or you haven't really fully adopted them into your workflow yet. Or maybe you don't have anything set up and you just want to make sure that you're not getting left behind, right? So if you fall into any of these categories, this video is definitely for you. I think who this video is not for is probably people that don't really see the importance of adapting to the digital age. For some context, I've probably spoken to over, let's say, 2,000 funeral homes in the last couple of years here. And I know there's a subset of people who are very resistant to change. And I just don't really know if I'll be able to convince you that this change is coming. So I'll have some stats here for you, for everyone else. Okay, so important information. The U.S. cremation rate in 2022, which is this year, was 59.3%, and it's projected to be at 78.7% in 2024, and that's according to the NFDA. According to a survey by the National Retail Federation, 81% of U.S. consumers report to shopping online. And according to U.S. Census Bureau, e-commerce sales in the U.S. increased by 44% compared to the previous year. So even AARP are recommending to its members that they should research and compare funeral services online. All right, and think about whose AARP target demographic is, right? So funeral arrangements are definitely initiated online with an online search, and even families who end up meeting you in person, they definitely start to search for you online. So in the industry here, I think we tend to move slower than everyone else. 7 years ago, I used to talk about, hey, there's an online wave coming. However, now when I talk to people, I'm like, hey, you know what? If you don't do something, you're going to start to get left behind. Okay, so let's talk about the mistakes that people make. The number one mistake I think for cremation brands that need to avoid is, number one, not carefully considering the goal of your landing page, right? So your landing page, or really the front page of a website, is really the first thing any potential families will see after maybe seeing your ad or finding you on Google. So whether it's organic traffic coming in or paid traffic coming in, it's very important for you to be converting this traffic into actual money for your business. So according to Nielsen Norman Group, a user will spend about 15 to 20 seconds on a website that they do not find engaging. However, if the content is easy to navigate, they'll spend an average of 10 to 20 minutes. So what does this mean? This means that the more someone spends, the longer someone spends on your website, the more likely they're going to pay you, right? So you want to maximize revenue if you have a clear message that your customer can understand and a clear next step for them to take. So for your cremation business, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it's probably clear that the next step should be, or the message should be, hey, what's your cremation price and what's the value, right? And then action should be, hey, some sort of step for them to start making arrangements and for them to eventually pay you. So every little hurdle that you have, every extra click that you have, every bit of unclear information, every reflection of your page where it's not modern, every inconvenience, every bad review that comes between someone that's getting to your website to actually paying you is just a sliver of traffic or potential business being lost, right? So it's very, very important to have extreme clarity on this. So you want to spend the time to really understand what you want people on your website to do once they get there. We've seen some of our partners double their volume within a year, probably 2.5, 2.7xing their profit by simply fixing this landing page and call to action, because there's so much traffic that's just slipping through the cracks. So it's really important for you to do this. This is probably the single most influential yet easiest thing for you to fix on your business. Okay, number two, a lot of owners don't really have a good pulse on their marketing. And I think a 2.5 point would be, a lot of owners think that just because they have a good website, people are going to come to their website naturally. And that's not the case. Okay, so I think this kind of goes hand in hand with the previous point, because if your website isn't a good conversion funnel, your marketing is not going to be very productive. And I would say most owners aren't really in the habit of regularly analyzing their marketing performance. A lot of times, I meet with cremation societies who aren't just really investing in the right channels, right? So I'm going to go ahead and say this, But after helping maybe hundreds of funeral homes, I think I can definitively say the first dollars you should be spending on your marketing for at-need cremation should be on Google AdWords. So it's not gonna be Facebook, it's not gonna be Instagram, it's not gonna be your local newspaper, it's not gonna be church or billboards, right? It's gonna be on Google AdWords. And the only caveat to that is prioritizing visiting your hospice as well. But the reason for this is because you cannot sell at-need cremation arrangements to someone who is not currently in need of a cremation, right? So I'm saying you can't sell at-need cremation arrangements to anyone that doesn't currently need a cremation right now for at-need, right? So with Google, you're specifically showing ads to people that are in your area looking for cremation services. Whereas Facebook, Instagram marketing is more of a demographic marketing, where you're targeting certain age groups, certain interests. And with billboards and newspapers, you're kind of more taking like a shotgun approach to the masses. Also, a big downside with like billboards, newspapers, things like that, print, is you don't really know how much money you're getting back based on the money that you spent until like a couple of weeks later, right? But with Google, you can show an ad to less people, spend less money, but everyone that sees your ad is very well qualified to becoming one of your customers. So I would also argue in the beginning, if you're just starting a new business off, the main goal has to be getting immediate ROI, right? So every dollar you put in, you're getting $1.50 back, you're getting $1.75 back, whatever it is, right? And that information is immediately known with Google because you spent $300 today. You can know exactly how many clicks you got, how many visitors you got, how many customers you got. So it's very important for you to understand your Google metrics, your AdWords metrics first before you start investing in other channels. All right, I hope that makes sense. Okay, number 3, not doing the legwork for local SEO. So even though SEO isn't something that you can turn on day one, there are definitely a number of steps that you should be taking to give yourself the best chance of ranking organically. So if you're starting a new cremation banner, for example, or if you've already been in business for a while, you really want to make sure that you increase your chances to rank higher on Google because it's free. And the number one thing you have to do, obviously, if you haven't done this yet, you should do this, is create your Google business page and make sure it's up to date. The pictures are nice, the content is nice, right? And then after that, you want to go to each of the other directories and make sure they have matching information for your business. You don't want to wait for a directory to add you because it might never happen or it takes forever, and a lot of times the data is wrong. But you actually want to go off and you want to register at each business. Register your business at each directory. So I think the most important part of this is to make sure that all the listings are uniform and all the information is matching, right? So what's going to happen is Google crawls this data and it sees like this information is missing here and is not missing here, or this has a suite number to it, this has a different phone number. Then it doesn't really have a high confidence that you're a real business, right? It's going to be less likely to show you higher up organically. There's probably about 40 or so directories that you should be registering. Some of them are more important than others, but it's very easy to do. It might be time consuming, but it's definitely something that you have to do regardless, right? This is the first thing that we do for all our marketing clients, but really you can do it yourself, and it's not that difficult. So definitely one of the things that you should be doing. Number 4, not having a follow-up process for shoppers. So obviously in the cremation market, you're gonna have a lot more people shopping around, making sure they get the best price. They're very sensitive on price and value, convenience. And a big mistake that I see owners make is they don't have a process set up for either their employees or even themselves to follow, where there's a clear next step for that shopper on the phone, right? If you think about how much energy it took that person to call you, they look you up, they browse your competitors, they find your website, they read through some stuff on your website, and they're interested, they call you, they ask you questions, and at that point, they may not be ready to make a decision right now, and then they say, okay, thank you, hang up, and that's it, right? So you want to keep that motivation going. You don't want to leave up to chance. A lot of times they call 4 or 5 different places. All the pricing is very similar, right? And then the person who talked to them last wins the business, right? So you want to put your families in the best position possible to be able to work with you. And the answer shouldn't be, hey, if you're ready, come back to my website and fill out this form. Or, hey, call me back, right? What a lot of our customers do is they will actually say, hey, you know what? Here's the information that you're looking for. Let me send it to you so you have it in writing. And they'll email over the information they're asking for on the phone, and now you have an extra point of contact. And that email has all the information about the funeral home, has a phone number, how to get back in touch, but it also includes a little button there where they can click in there and they can start the arrangement process, right? So now the next step isn't, hey, call me back. It's like, hey, we'll just open your email and you can start the process. So you just want to make it easier for them to become your customer, similar to what you want to do on your website. Okay, so number 5 is not asking for reviews, okay? So I've talked to a lot of owners, and sometimes they say, hey, you know what? I feel very uncomfortable asking for reviews. We don't have a process for that. And it makes sense, right? You don't want to ask, you feel kind of awkward, whatever. But if you go online right now, you look in your area, you're going to see a funeral home that has like 3 reviews, that's been in business for a number of years, and you're going to see a similar funeral home with 50 reviews, right? Why do you think there's such a wide discrepancy? Is the one with 50 that much better? I'm here to tell you that the one with 50 is probably just asking for those reviews, right? And they have a process in place where they're asking for it. And more than likely, your funeral home has a good experience to families. More than likely, your families are very happy with you. And more than likely, they probably don't really care about your business enough to want to write a review about you, but they'd be willing to do it if it was easy for them, right? So if you haven't implemented a process where you're asking for those reviews, then you're missing out on a huge opportunity, because those reviews are not only going to help you with your local SEO, but it's also going to help you with your conversion as well. It makes a very good first impression. Whenever someone sees those reviews before going to your website, it makes it so much easier for them to trust you, right? If someone sees 100 other people that had a really good experience with the exact same thing they're looking for right now, they're going to be much more likely to pay you for your services, right? Versus seeing nothing. And it's also going to make your marketing spend more productive, right? Because if you spend money on marketing, you get a certain number of eyeballs. If those people trust you more, then more of those eyeballs will become paying customers. So I think asking for reviews is not that big of a deal. And you should get into the mindset where this is really going to exponentially help your business. A lot of our customers, what they do is that we have like a way where it auto asks. You don't have to ask in person, because sometimes when you ask in person, then they go, okay, great. They go home, they forget about it. But if you ask them online, it's automated, then people just do it, right? And if you click a button, it's right there on the review. You hit 5 stars, that's a review, right? If you go to any funeral home that we're working with, any Christian Society funeral home we're working with for the last 2 or 3 years, they all have over 100 reviews. Why is that? Is because we automate that process, right? So yeah, that's a very easy hurdle. I think you should always ask for reviews. So number 6 is not dummy-proofing the information and paperwork collection process. And this one actually should probably be higher up on this list. One of the biggest mistakes, I think, is someone not really thinking through the process in enough detail, in how you collect paperwork, or how you collect documents, right? Or signatures or information. And if you think about how easy this process should be, and how much time and energy funeral homes are actually putting into this, spending on this for each case, there's actually a pretty big gap there. I'm pretty sure everyone has a story where it's like, hey, they're spending extra time on the phone walking someone through how to download or print something off the website, or there's like a 12-step process for you to correct something if something was misspelled, or a lot of people using digital signatures now, but the process to generate that document takes like 4 steps, the funeral director, to get it ready. And these are just really common problems that add a lot of extra time and friction really to each case. And a lot of times, obviously the funeral director spends extra time, but also the families can get annoyed as well. So really, to be straightforward, these are problems that could be very easily solved with the right technology. And there's very easy ways for you to just generate paperwork with one click of a button. Autofill vitals. Change things that they've been filled in. These aren't really heavy technical problems to solve. So I think it makes sense for you to spend a good amount of time up front to really work through every single process and just come up with a way to solve these problems easily for the funeral director, right? And we see funeral homes saving upwards of 30 to 90 minutes per case by really just reducing the amount of busy work. And this really means that you need less employee time, and you can also maintain better customer satisfaction. So if you just take the time up front, go to different scenarios, come up with good solutions, and it's going to pay off huge in the long run. Okay, number 7 is not selling merchandise, or not selling enough merchandise, really. So for cremation societies, cremation businesses, I think merchandise sales can easily make up 20% of your revenue. And you definitely don't want to give up that revenue to Amazon. We typically see our cremation partners, increase their average contract totals by upwards of $100 per case when they start optimizing their merchandise sales. I even one guy told me he said he increases merchandise sales by $400 per case, which is, I don't know, it's insane. But most of the times when people tell me they don't really sell merchandise, it's because one, A, they're too busy, or it makes the arrangement process too long, or B, people don't want to buy merchandise, which I don't think is true. Obviously, A, yeah, you can make your process shorter and you can still sell merchandise. And then B, I think people don't want to buy merchandise because a lot of times you make it too difficult. So a really common business model is where you do the arrangements online or over the phone, right? And the funeral home expects the family to go to their website, look at some brochure, and then call back and then tell them, oh, this is the urn I want. And sometimes there's not even pricing on there. And then the funeral home has to create the invoice and then over to them to pay. So there's just a lot of steps, right? And that's probably why people don't want to buy from you, because there's just too many steps. It's not that important to them. But really, the secret to selling merchandise, similar to everything else, is just more eyeballs equals to more sales. So if you can present the merchandise in a very easy way as they check out, you're naturally going to see more sales that way. And yeah, a lot of our partners, they really love the drop shipping aspect of it. So if you don't want to hold inventory, that's totally fine. When someone buys and earns, we drop ship it to you, and then you're pretty much done. So definitely need to maximize that revenue for merchandise sales. Don't give it to anyone else, because families need to buy merchandise. They better buy it from you. Okay, so number 8 is not getting commitment up front. So if you think about it, it's going to take a lot of energy for someone to get to the point where they're ready to pay you, right? And you basically want to strike when the iron is hot, right? When someone's ready to make a decision to work with you, the next step should be to get payment. And I can tell you definitively, if the next step was to get payment versus the next step was to collect vitals, you're going to have a much better conversion rate on the payment side of things. Why? Is because someone agrees to pay you or agrees to work with you, and they pay you, then they're definitely going to give you vitals. If someone agrees to work with you and they give you vitals, they may not necessarily pay you, right? So I know sometimes people, especially funeral home owners, feel a little bit weird about collecting payment up front, but from the family perspective, I think it's pretty normal. It's a natural thing. You just assume that it's a normal process to get payment before removal, for example. It's one less thing for you to worry about, and it's going to help with your conversion. Okay, so number 9 is not charging for additional fees. I think this one stems from either the funeral director being too nice or the owner not really having a process in place. But for direct cremation, if you're a funeral home with a side brand or you're a cremation society, you probably aren't charging a whole lot for your cremation price, and you're probably pretty competitive, and it's very important for you to streamline your process because you're trying to save money, right? It's also very important to make sure that if there's any sort of additional fees that you incur or additional, effort or time that it costs you, you're passing those fees on to the customer, right? So your advertised price, covers the majority of scenarios. But if there's any extra services that someone wants, you have to make sure that you're not losing money for those, right? So common examples could be like oversized fee, residence removal, delivery of remains, rush cremations. And sometimes I see business not really charging for these things because it's too difficult to ask for it. But that can be easily solved if you just have like a way where it's automatically charged onto the process when they check out, right? And that way you don't have to talk to the family about it, you don't have to ask about it. It's already explained, they understand it. So number 10 is thinking that the arrangement process ends at checkout. This one's a little bit more common, usually with folks that are just starting to implement a online arrangement process for their brand, because it's kind of easy to learn this the hard way once you start. But yeah, the big mistake is really community societies make, like when they're looking to make online arrangements more streamlined, they think that the arrangement ends at checkout, and that's all they look into, and they completely ignore, or they don't put any attention into thinking about the exact steps of what happens after checkout. What does the family do? What does the staff do after payment is collected, right? Because once the checkout is complete, is actually when the arrangement starts, right? So, obviously, when working with families, there's always going to be situations where things come up and they don't go exactly according to plan. So maybe the family who paid is, not the next kin, or maybe they forgot to buy an urn from you, or maybe they have a sister that needs to sign an authorization form, or they need a partial refund, or they made a mistake on the vitals that you need to change. So there's a lot of different scenarios where your staff needs to be able to guide the family through and help them. And if your staff doesn't really have the tools to help, and all they do after checkout is get this email with information that they got paid, it can get really complicated really fast, right? So you really want to make sure that you're set up in a way where you can facilitate all these things, because if you can't, it's going to end up hurting your family experience. It's really going to be counterproductive to what you're trying to do.
Last but not least is not valuing your time. And this one is a little bit obvious, but we do see this mistake quite a bit. And not understanding this early on will really put you in a position where you cannot scale up quickly. So sometimes I'm talking to owners who are doing some sort of hybrid, arrangement where they're doing things over the phone, and they're telling me, hey, yeah, it's super easy. I can knock this arrangement out in 30 or 40 minutes, right? And they're actually proud of it. So they're referring to, okay, I talk to the family, I can get the vitals, I can set up the documents, I can send over for digital signature, and then I get payment, right? They can do that in 30 or 40 minutes. And this surprises me sometimes, because if you think about it, 30 to 40 minutes is actually quite a bit of time for you, because that's not all the time it's going to take you, right? Because you still got to wait for the paperwork to come back, you still got to get assigned, you got to answer questions, you got to fix some things that happen, you got to file the death certificates, you got to do all the labor, right? So the most valuable thing that you have, and you can't get more of, is your own time. So even if you have employees doing the arrangements for you, and they're spending extra time on the case, that's still limiting your growth, because you're still constrained by the amount of time it takes, right? So you definitely want to put a heavy emphasis on how you can save time early on, because that's really the only way you can scale your business. And to give you some context, I have a customer who called me the other day, and they're about 4 months in work with us. They're doing about 50 cases a month now, brand new business. And we talk about 20 minutes about random stuff, and then about 15 minutes go by, and he calls me back, and he's like, "Hey Albert," and he's so happy to tell me because within that 15 minutes he got a new case, which happens quite a bit for him. But he got a new case. The families went online and paid him, and he got paid $1,400 plus merchandise. The family had already filled the paperwork, and then he just called the family to schedule the removal, right? So he's basically running this business by himself, maybe with one extra helper, and he's handling 50 cases a month, right? So I know that story sometimes scares owners because they have all these what ifs, but that's a very easy way for you to scale. You leverage technology to scale, and he's able to do that beautifully. So you really want to make sure, be cognizant of how much time you're spending and where you can save that time, because that's going to be a very, very helpful accelerator to help you scale your business. So there you have it. Those are 11 mistakes that cremation businesses are making. If you want to reach your full potential, just avoid those mistakes and just do the opposite, really. So in summary, you want to optimize your landing page and make sure you have a really clear call to action and clear messaging. You want to figure out your metrics for Google AdWords. You want to do the groundwork of your local SEO. That's really making sure that you're registered with all the different directories. You want to make sure you have a process for phone shoppers to maximize that conversion funnel, and then also have a process for reviews, obviously, to get more reviews. Definitely want to dummy-proof the way you collect vitals and paperwork. You want to make sure you sell merchandise and make it very easy for people to buy merchandise. Maximize your revenue by getting paid up front. You want to automate charging for additional fees. You definitely want to be cognizant of what happens after checkout, and probably last but not least, making sure that you maximize your time. So if you do these 11 things, pretty much guarantee that your business will soar this year. We know this because we've helped hundreds of funeral homes and cremation businesses grow like crazy, save a lot of time, and spin up profits like they've never seen before, which ultimately raises the valuation of their businesses. So really, I think there's two ways you can do this. First is the hard way. It's definitely possible to implement this on your own. What you want to do is you want to hire a web designer to figure out how to optimize your website, and then you want to pay a marketer to help you figure out your ad budget and how you're gonna maximize, efficiency on your advertising spend. Maybe that person can do your SEO as well. You could also do it yourself. And then you probably want to hire a engineer or designer to help you develop any tools. I think realistically, this is not going to be financially profitable or beneficial for you. So you probably want to get a consultant to just pull together a bunch of third-party apps. And you probably have to give them a lot of context to do this because they won't really know what you're doing. And then you have to test it and make sure that it works. And unfortunately, you're probably going to test that on potential customers. That may affect your conversion funnels for a little bit. And then also the experience for families won't be that great. And then there's also going to be a lot of work on the staff side, training your staff and everything. So more than likely, this will be like a second job to you for maybe 6 months to a year. And I don't know how fun it's going to be for you. But what I like to offer you is the easy way, which is, hey, work with us. We already know what works and what doesn't. We'll set up your marketing campaign, do your local SEO for you. We'll build you a custom website, figure out your call to action, figure out your messaging, and then customize your checkout flow to whatever GPL you have. We actually have consultants that are in-house that will train your staff and show you how to do everything. Also, by the way, our consultants are all previous employees of high volume funeral homes. So they've implemented Parting Pro at their existing funeral home, and then also hundreds more from the Parting Pro side, obviously. We can provide you with scripts and workflows that have been tested and tried, and we can have all this done in 2 weeks. So once again, we've been doing this for 7 years. We partnered with hundreds of funeral homes and helped serve hundreds of thousands of families just last year. If you're looking to thrive as we move into a digital age, we can help you as well. So if you're interested, but maybe on the fence a little bit, go ahead and book some time with our sales team, and you can get your questions answered. If you're ready to get started today, go ahead and sign up at the link below as well, and we can have everything up and running for you in just about 2 weeks. If you sign up today, on the link below, we'll actually waive that setup fee for you. Since you're saving us time on the sales side, we can pass those savings on to you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate your time and wish you the best of luck for 2023.